The title on your website, your reel, your Instagram, your bio, it's either opening doors or it's closing them. And most of you have no idea which one is doing right now. I used to call myself something so bad that nobody could ever find me online. I'll tell you what it is at the end, it's actually worse than you can even imagine. But today, I'm a documentary director, DP. I shot for PBS, Hulu, and the History Channel, and I'm a Netflix fellow. And I hire other shooters for jobs all the time. What you call yourself matters more than you think. Today, I'm walking you through the ladder from videographer, filmmaker, cinematographer, DP, what each title actually signals to the people hiring you, the real dollar difference between them, and how to choose the right one based on what you actually do. And at the very end of this, I'll tell you the title I used to give myself, the one that was so bad it made videographer look like an upgrade. What's going on, world? I'm Eric D. Seals, and today we're talking about why the title you give yourself is either building your career or holding you back. Maybe you picked videographer because it felt safe or because everyone around you was using it. What you call yourself changes who finds you, what they expect, and what they're willing to pay. So here's how we're gonna break this thing down, and it's gonna be a ladder effect. So we're gonna look at what each title actually means, the business math, what it costs you, and how to choose yours. If you're trying to level up your career and how the industry sees you, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button because I'm gonna be releasing a video like this every week moving forward. Let's jump into it. Let's start with what these titles actually mean. So the term videographer comes from broadcast, really. It's definitely not a filmmaking term that we utilize. It's a default word that people use when they don't know what the real position is. And what this signals is someone who turns on the camera, frames it up, makes sure it's in focus and the exposure is correct. That's not wrong, but it's definitely not filmmaking. Being a videographer isn't bad, but if you want documentary work, it puts you in a different category. In the production circles, you'll hear it as a lower tier. We could just hire a videographer. I hear that all the time. And it's saying that we just need someone to essentially make sure that the action is in the 16:9 box. Filmmaker signals that you focus on stories. You're shaping what you capture and you're not just recording it. A filmmaker thinks about narrative and pacing and character and structure. The camera serves the story. If you care about documentary work, short films, or narrative work, this is where you should be aiming for, not as a videographer. So then we shift over to cinematographer, which is a term that a lot of people hear on a regular basis. A cinematographer means you're crafting images. You're intentional about lighting, your lens choice, and your camera movement, along with your composition. A cinematographer doesn't just frame a shot, they design the look. Every decision is a storytelling choice. The title carries much more weight with producers because it implies a higher level of visual thinking. Then after that, you have the director of photography, or a DP is what we usually call it here in the States. A DP crafts the look, the feel, and the entire visual identity of a film, way beyond what a videographer can do. A DP works with the director to design the visual language. Every visual decision serves the director's vision. On bigger production, the DP doesn't even actually operate the camera, which a lot of people are surprised about. That DP is leading the camera and the lighting department. So 4 titles, 4 different signals, and the gap between them is not just skill, it's how the industry finds you, categorizes you, and decides what to pay you. So a cinematographer can be a DP, and a DP can also run as a cinematographer. So the way that I like to look at it is a true DP is crafting the entire look. They might have several cinematographers under them that they're utilizing in different parts of the world. That DP is giving them the plan, the lighting, and the whole structure of how everything should look, how they're capturing it, what type of gear they're using, what lens. They're orchestrating the whole entire look, whereas cinematographer, who may sometimes be a DP, is executing that look for that DP, or they're a hired gun that day and you need something that's a little bit higher than a videographer. So sometimes I think we mix up the two. One has more responsibilities than the other. For instance, I've been on projects where I'm a cinematographer and I'm on projects where I've been a DP, and I've been on projects when I've been a cam op. They're all very different. So that's the ladder, but here's where it gets real, because the title you choose doesn't just change how you feel about yourself, it changes your bank account. And I'm not gonna lie, it definitely does. Let me show you the math. So let me tell you exactly how the industry hears the word videographer, and I'm gonna use a real conversation that I've had recently. So on a recent job that I'm working on, the producer that I'm working with said we need to hire someone who's in the remote area that we're gonna be filming. And the producer said, you know, if we can't find another cinematographer, we can always find the best local videographer. That term says a lot right there. They don't even put it in the same category. A videographer is the fallback to that producer in that situation, and that's not the only time that I've heard it. That's not one person's opinion. That's how the industry is structured. And it affects everything from the rate to the jobs you even get to see. Documentary producers are not searching for videographers. They're searching for DPs and cinematographers. The word videographer signals a lower price point. Cinematographer or DP signals a higher rate. When you hire someone and their website says videographer, that's a negative tick for documentary work. It's not a negative tick in general, but when you talk about documentary work, it's a negative tick. For nonprofit and corporate, that label may not mean as much. With producers on high-scale projects, it's a huge difference. The jobs are there, but if your title doesn't match what they're searching for, you're invisible. And that's not a skill problem, that's a positioning problem. So you know the ladder and you know the math, but knowing isn't enough. You have to actually make a change. And I can tell you from experience, it does work because I did it myself. Let me tell you what happened. I didn't always get this right. In fact, I got it as wrong as you can get it, and even more wrong than that. I used to call myself something that nobody was even searching online. I made up the term because I thought it was unique. But the problem was, if nobody's searching for it, then I can't get hired for it. I changed my title to director of photography and I started getting more work instantly. My work was improving, but the title shift opened a lot of doors. Just like a YouTube thumbnail can shift who watches your video, a title can shift who hires you and who finds you. So I changed it on my resume, my website, and how I presented myself, and I noticed a huge difference. If a job specifically needs a videographer, that's fine, no problem at all. But most of the time, you're looking for cinematographers when it comes to documentaries. A videographer captures what's happening. A cinematographer tells a story. So the title that I called myself back in the day was video production artist. I can look at my old website and my reel, and I just thought that was a really unique term. And honestly, it is a cool term. It's a cool, title that I gave myself. The problem was nobody is searching for a video production artist. That was nothing that was coming up for resumes or for LinkedIn or for job applications. And so from that point right there, every time someone said, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I'm a video production artist. They're like, what is that? So I quickly learned that that was an issue from positioning, because if nobody knows what it is, they can't hire you. So even the term filmmaker is better because people know what a filmmaker is. People know what a videographer is. So if videographer is here, I was way down here. This isn't gatekeeping. These titles communicate different capabilities to different hiring decision makers. The title changed, the work changed, not overnight, but the trajectory shifted. And that's what we're talking about here. Not a magic word, a positioning decision. So how do you actually choose the right title? Not based on what sounds cool, but based on what you actually do and where you want to go. These are the steps to figure out what your title should be. Here's what I want you to walk away with. Not just stop calling yourself a videographer for documentaries. A simple process, a 3-step process that you all should consider. All right, so these are the questions that you have to ask yourself when you start thinking about title. So step number 1 is, what are you being paid for today? Are you doing weddings? Are you doing corporate work? Are you doing doc work? Each one is going to garner a different title, where a wedding is going to look for a videographer, not as much so a cinematographer or a DP. Corporate can be somewhere in the middle depending on what type of content they're creating, but if they're doing a branded doc, then they're gonna be looking for a DP or cinematographer. If they're doing event capture, they may be looking for a videographer. So I think it's important for people to understand it's about what you wanna get hired for or what you're currently being hired for at this point. The next question you need to ask is, what do you want to be hired for next? Because if you're currently getting a lot of work in weddings and you wanna stay in weddings, then you don't even need to go to step 2 or 3. But if you're currently in weddings or corporate work and you wanna make that shift, you're going to need to brand yourself differently at some point. And a lot of people have a hard time hearing this. You might need to consider shutting down or closing down what you're being hired for at this point, because people are gonna continue to hire you for what you're putting out in the world. Or if you want to continue doing that work, but you want to transition, then maybe quietly do that work, but don't promote it, because people are gonna hire you for what you're currently doing. Step number 3, if those don't match, consider separating them. 2 identities until the new one really takes over. So the idea with that is having a 2 website strategy. So when someone hits you up from a wedding, you give them the wedding website. If someone hits you up for a documentary, give them the documentary website. Producers hiring for doc are not going to consider someone whose site is full of wedding work. It's nothing against wedding work, but they want someone who is in that space. Have 2 separate identities until you get enough work. Now, the problem with that is if someone searches you online, they may find the website that you don't want, so you have to be careful about that. Clients don't want someone who kinda does this. They want someone who focuses on this. Your title isn't a label, it's a positioning decision, and it's one you can change this week. I went from a title nobody could find to a title that matched the work that I wanted to put out in the world. And the work, it followed. Amateurs pick a title that feels comfortable. Professionals pick one that positions them for the work that they want to do. Here's my challenge for you. Change your title this week, update your website, your bio, your reel. Pick the title that matches the work that you want, not the work that you've been settling for. I'm Eric D. Seals. Keep telling stories that matter.
Hi, I'm Eric Seals. I'm the tape man. Cameraman!